Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. Again, I mean, we're always just thrilled to have you with us for our exclusive webinars with Hostfully. But today we have our friends. We have Neal over at Quibble and Mike over at Book NOLA, who is no stranger to our webinars. Gentlemen, it's a real pleasure having you both spearhead today's discussion. We're especially grateful to Mike and Neal, really, for just sharing your insights. So thank you in advance. All of your wealth of information on predictive tools and how you specifically drive the future of dynamic pricing with that. To everyone in the audience, again, thank you so much for joining. We will be getting started in just a few minutes. We're just going to wait for a few more people to trickle in. But while we do wait and help us tailor today's session for you, you're going to notice a questions tab at the bottom right of your screen. So please feel free to drop any questions you have there throughout the next hour. Our team, as well as everyone else, will be making every effort to answer those behind the scenes as we go. You'll also see on the bottom right a polls section. That's the polls that we'll be asking, but we're also going to do some fun live polls. And we would love for you to participate in those as well. It really is a great way for us to get to know you better, but also make the session more relevant to your specific needs. So definitely answer those polls. In the meantime, however, since we are still waiting for a few folks to join, let's take a moment and practice answering a poll. So the first poll is going to be, how many listings do you currently manage? So this will give us a sense of the size of your portfolios and who's really on today's call. So really right now we have about 50% 0 to 4, about 40% 5 to 15. So yeah, it seems like a good split between 0 to 4, but then we have 50% from 5 to 30. So good, I guess, variety in terms of experience and needs, especially when it comes to dynamic pricing. People are lagging a bit today, but in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and continue with hopes that more people come on in. So again, for all of you that just joined, thank you so much for carving out time today to be here with us. I'm Frank Bosi. I am the Senior Director of Partner Development here at Hostfully. And today we are joined by my colleague Inya, who's in the back end. He's going to be answering any questions you have today and just ensure that everything is running smoothly. And of course, I am so excited to introduce our special guest today. We have Neal Cyr. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Nailed it.
Yes, thank goodness, because I made a video yesterday and I was like, I don't know if I said it right. Neal here is the CEO of Quibble. And then we have longtime Hostfully user, Mike Springer, who is the founder of Book NOLA. So gentlemen, again, just thank you so much for being here. We're excited to learn about the data-driven approaches, your strategies, and everything you've really mastered in this space. And before we start, just some housekeeping rules for those of you that did just join. We have that questions tab at the bottom right corner. Feel free to drop your questions there anytime during today's webinar. We'll do our best to answer them throughout today, as well as a Q&A at the end if we have time. You'll also notice a few quick polls pop up as we go. These just help us better understand who's joining and what we should be focusing on today. So we'd really appreciate your participation there. And then finally, don't be shy with the emoji reactions. I saw a few already. At Hostfully, if you don't already know, we like to keep things fun and engaging. So have some fun and let us know that you're with us and that you didn't minimize us so you can continue working. So again, before jumping into today's content, just wanted to give you a quick introduction of Hostfully, who we are, what we do, especially for those of you that are new to us. So Hostfully is an all-in-one vacation rental property management platform that really helps you run your business from tip to tail, from start to finish. And our mission is simple. We help property managers and vacation rental companies boost revenue, streamline operations, and deliver this amazing guest experience to the guests. We offer two powerful and fully integrated tools. We have the property management platform and the digital guidebook. You can use them separately or together for even more of an impact. But I should change my verbiage to three powerful and fully integrated tools, because now we recently launched our Hostfully devices. So this is our latest product, and it's built to take on automation really to the next level. And I'll share more about that in a little bit. Moving over to our property management platform, it's award-winning, all-in-one solution, really built to simplify and streamline your vacation rental operations. And of course, with direct connections to all major OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Google, Marriott, you can manage anything and everything in one place, including your direct booking site. Some of the key features to include: we have AI-powered guest messaging, multi-unit, seamless channel sync across all OTAs. We have a unified calendar. We have a whole lot more to make it easier for you. And Hostfully has been consistently recognized across the industry for delivering powerful tools that help property managers really grow and scale with confidence. So if you do want to learn more about our property management software, please feel free. Or if you just want to chat, frank@hostfully.com. I'd be happy to talk about our property management software. We also have our digital guidebooks. So with our digital guidebooks, it's super easy. They're beautifully designed tools that really level up the guest experience. And through our Viator integration, you can offer these curated local experiences, but also at the same time earn a referral and a commission off of those that are booked. Even on the guidebooks, you can upsell things like early check-in, mid-stay cleans, golf cart rentals, gear rentals, right from your guidebook, and you can generate a lot of revenue aside from just your reservations. With that being said, we also, lastly, I'll just try to make this quick, is the Hostfully devices. So we have our newest edition, as I mentioned. It's the Hostfully devices, smart, seamless way to really automate your vacation rentals and create this just unforgettable check-in experience for your guests. So with support, we have over 200 smart devices, from locks, thermostats. We even have garage doors to even hot tub heaters. And you can manage everything remotely right from your Hostfully dashboard, which is a really exciting feature that we now have to all Hostfully users. And what really sets us apart in the integration is it feeds into your reservation calendar. So guests can access their device settings. They can update automatically, so there's no manual work required anymore. We've also partnered with trusted brands. As you can see here, we have Slade, Yale, Honeywell, just to ensure that smooth setup and that rock solid reliability. It's ultimately less work for you, smoother, and just a more elevated guest experience for your guests. And then lastly, not only do we provide this beautiful platform, these beautiful guidebooks, and now Hostfully devices, but Hostfully takes great pride in our customer care, our growth, our education. So we also provide a humongous wealth of resources that help you grow. So from industry reports to educational webinars, blog posts, case studies, expert articles, there's a ton of value waiting for you on your website. So I definitely encourage you to explore that when you get a moment. And if you are curious to learn more about any of our products, feel free to reach out to me directly. Again, it's frank@hostfully.com. Drop a note in our questions tab, or you can even, I'll share a link a little bit later on where you can just book a demo with me directly. We're always happy to set something up if you want to learn more. But really, let's get to why everyone is really here. And we're especially grateful to have Neal and Mike with us today, sharing their proven ways in predicting traveler trends and maximize your revenue. So feel free to take it from here, Neal and Mike.
All right. I think we're going to have a quick poll, if possible, just to see who in the audience is using a dynamic pricing tool, just to start off. And if you don't mind, just letting us know if you're currently using something or you have something plugged into your PMS, just to kind of set the stage for the conversation.
Yep. About 62% are using a dynamic pricing tool, where 38% are not.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah. So I'm going to jump into it and describe from, our technology, our relationship with Mike, how we view pricing and revenue management. First, let me tell you about why I know about pricing. I did pricing and revenue management in the airlines for a while, and which is an interesting place to start. Like the technology there is super strong, right? But when you think about applying this to the short-term rental space, it's different. And in some regards, you think, well, they've got really advanced technology because they've invested big money into it, and that's true. But there's really interesting things we can do because these listings and properties are quite unique. And what is missing right now in revenue management is being able to pull out that uniqueness of your property and set pricing accordingly. So what I'm going to talk to you first about is how we're doing this. And the way we're doing it is trying to get really close to the customer decision. So imagine a perfect world, we could price anything. Basically, I would see the screen that you're looking at before you're about to, make your decision, and then I would set the price, right? We'd be really close. We're not quite there, but we're close in terms of predicting what's on the screen and what people are shopping for. And I'll talk to you guys a bit more about how our relationship with Mike has leveraged this technology in the slides to come. But yeah, the way pricing science advances is really trying to understand how consumers shop, predicting the choice set that they're looking at, like what is this person looking for? Is our property inside of that choice set? Like, are we on the screen? And then when I say, okay, well, what's our chances of winning their business or being selected? So the first step in doing this is actually trying to predict what's on the screen. And sorry, let me back up 1 second. If we could run the poll of the next one. And if you could say, okay, say you're looking and you're going to book a property, you're going to book a short-term rental. If you think about how many options you put into your set of like, I might book this, or like it's a really good option. How many do you normally consider? Is it 1 to 10, 11 to 50, or more than 50? So if you could answer that, it'll help me get to the next part of the presentation.
Yes, and I'll jump in too because I travel all the time. My wife and 2 kids, 6 and 7 now. And we're actually, as soon as we jump off of this webinar, we're actually jumping in the car and headed out of town for some fun. But even with kids and some really specific filters that we use, I don't think we've ever looked at more than maybe 4 or 5 different options for a single destination.
Perfect. And I think from some research from airline pricing, it's generally somewhere between 10 and 12 options is what a person can hold in their thought at one time while they're shopping. And basically everything else doesn't matter, right? So if you're going to New Orleans and you're looking for a 2-bedroom, in a particular neighborhood, you have probably filtered that down. There's several thousand options. You filtered it down to, as what the poll kind of suggests, is somewhere between 1 to 10 is what normally people are looking at. And when we're trying to predict who's on the screen with your property, that's what we're doing. We're finding the 10 best properties that are close by, in the potential options that someone might pick instead of you. And the reason we're doing that is because nothing else matters, right? Having, what's typical now is these comp sets of 300 or 1,000, and it's okay, they might give you some market signal, but from a human shopping standpoint, they don't matter because people aren't looking at those. They're not gonna book that instead of you. So we need to find and try and predict what's on the screen, but just what are the best options, right? And so the first step that we're taking in the pricing model is find the best options that are available around the property that we care about. And that is the predictive step of okay, if they don't book my property, they're probably going to book one of these, or this is what they're looking at, right? Because people have specific travel needs, as Mike said. He's not looking for a studio to go with his family. Those are gone, right? He's probably not looking for a 6-bedroom. He's looking for something, rather that fits his family, fits his needs, fits his location. So our first prediction is what's going to be on the screen. Then from there, we're saying, okay, now we're going to start using a probability to try and understand if you're on the screen, what's the chances that someone picks you? And what's interesting, as I said about airlines, you know, a seat on an airplane is pretty similar to the seat right next to it. But your property has a lot more nuance than the property next door. You have images, you have ratings, you have reviews, you have all these things, right? That actually create a lot of differentiation between you and your competitor. And what we want to do is pull that out, because all those things do is make someone more likely or less likely to book your property, right? So if you have really ugly images, it's less likely. If people say, this is the best property I've ever seen in New Orleans, I want to come back here every time, it's more likely. And what we're trying to do is predict the chances that you're going to win. So that is, you know, in terms of pricing science, we're moving towards probability-based pricing. Now, then we say, okay, we have a pretty good idea of, you know, what we actually pulled all the information of everything from all your competitors. So we have their images, we have their ratings, we have their reviews, we have their location, we have their bedroom count, right? We have all that, and it goes into the model. It says, okay, those things aren't going to change. But since it's a probability-based model, we're going to say, well, what happens when we fluctuate the price, right? Generally, if you say, okay, if I charge $5, my chances of booking might be like really high. But do you care if you're only going to get $5? Probably not. But if you charge, you know, $5,000, your chances of getting booked are really, really low. And in that regard, the optimal price is somewhere in the middle. And when you run science-based pricing, which is optimization modeling, it basically doesn't require any input or like a base price or a starting price. What you're doing is paying for the model to solve for the best price. So you find a point that maximizes, and then that's what the price gets set to. This is different than what's been normally done in this industry. And I'll talk a little bit about, for those of you that are using dynamic pricing right now, you're probably used to this, where you set a base price or a starting point, and what you have the model do for you is move the base price up or down. So what these types of models are doing is solving for how much to move the base price, right? That's what they're doing. It's, should I move it up or down, and then by how much? And these are dynamic pricing. So when we say dynamic, basically means the price changes and they keep running and the price will keep updating. Dynamic just means how frequently a price changes, but they're not optimizing in the sense of, when we go back to the optimization curve, since you set in a base price, all it can do is determine how much to move it. When you use optimization, it's actually solving for the best price, or the price that maximizes your revenue. So as we think about advancing in pricing science, basically probability-based models, which is what our peers in the airlines and the hotels use, haven't been available to short-term rental property managers until now.
And I'm going to jump in, Neal. If you want to take a look at, Steve just asked an interesting question, but while you look at that, I want to pop back to the previous slide here and point out some things from a property manager perspective that I've really enjoyed, that really make Quibble stand out to me. So let's see. So one of the cool things is, I think Neal mentioned market share. If you see at the top left of that picture there where it says 15% share, this has been really helpful for us when we're trying to show our owners who are like, hey, I want a minimum, here's an arbitrary minimum price, right? So we can pull up the screen and really show them, hey, well, this is your, let's say 350 minimum price that you want to put in. And maybe we have 2 or 3% market share there, if that. And being able to show them, well, hey, the model is recommending, let's say 150, for example, and we plug in 150, where they'll be able to see, hey, we can get 15% market share. And that helps that conversation around RevPAR, where it's not just about getting a super high average daily rate. And then, as Neal kind of started to touch on, so when looking at the comps, Quibble is looking at your listing and other listings review ratings. So if our competition just got a lower rating, our market share might bump up a percent or two, and the model might raise our pricing. So, I mean, we, as the property management company, myself and the Book NOLA team, have really noticed the difference. And as we'll get into in a little bit, our numbers have reflected that as well. And then the last thing here, there is, where is it? Like the picture scores. Okay, yeah, you can't really see it, but it's in like that top left corner of the picture there.
I'm going to move here just to this.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. So it'll give you that little 8.5. I think it's out of 10. And it's just like the AI ranking the picture. That, from a property manager standpoint, has been super helpful. There's no, it's always some awkward conversations to be had with clients as a property manager. But one of my least favorite is, oh yeah, we already have, great photos. They're perfect. And you look at the listing and it's like, they hit the magic touch button on their iPhone picture, right? To get a professional photo. So, that's really great to be able to say, hey, look, you're looking for these pricing, this price and these rates and this type of revenue. But this is your competition. They have 8.5 scores and your pictures are, 4.8 maybe. So just wanted to highlight, I know Neal's talking high level about all of the really awesome things that Quibble does behind the scenes, but these are definitely some things that we use and look at on a day-to-day basis as property managers for sure.
All right, I'm gonna just hit now Steve's question there. He said, is there option for making the price the same every day, or is the price different every day? So when we are solving this equation, which is what's the best price, it's done on a nightly basis. And so every day the model solves for the best price for every property. So we'll solve that all the way out into the future. In the event that you want to freeze price or override the price or lock it in for a certain period of time, that's a possibility through the interface, that you can make the pricing the same. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, I'm going to keep going, so this is industry kind of standard, which is dynamic, but it's not optimal in the sense of it's not finding that peak point on the expected revenue curve. So I think as we think about how this industry moves forward, we're professionalizing, we're taking advantage of, these, tools that have been available for airlines and hotels for a really long time, adding this probability, as Mike's describing, it not only explains like what's going on, but it also gets you better pricing. All right, topic of interest to me is AI. I think everyone thinks about AI a lot now that it is basically everywhere. But I want to pull apart what is and what isn't AI when people talk about dynamic pricing. And dynamic pricing, it's not AI. It's a model. Dynamic pricing as it is now will move your price up and down, right? Our model, even though it's I just told you how awesome it was. It's an optimization model. It's not AI. But that doesn't mean there's not a role for AI to help us out. When Mike was describing the image score, that's done by a computer vision module. And if you think about what a model likes or takes in, it's numbers. Like the model runs on numbers. It doesn't look at an image and have anything but, doesn't see anything but pixels, right? Now, when you think about what a human is responding to when they look at your pictures, as Mike just said, someone might be like, oh, I don't want to spend money on, professional photos, but we can quantify what that would be worth if we knew the value of good photos, right? And when we were first training this model, we were pumping in all the numbers, right? We didn't have a photo score because we thought we could optimize a price basically with the room count, with review score and all that stuff. It turns out that it's actually not it's a huge missing hole of people look at images. Like if you are imagining yourself shopping for a short-term rental, you're gonna click through all the pictures. Like it's just a human thing. But to convert your human response into a number for a model is actually kind of hard because a bunch of pixels to a computer doesn't mean anything. But what computer vision does, and when you train a model, It actually just understands the connection between each of those pixels. And then it tries to represent, or we tell it, or train it to say, hey, this is a beautiful image. This is an ugly image. This is an image of a bedroom. This is the image of a kitchen. And by training that model out, you can get it to actually start to understand or rate an image, and then feed that data into the pricing model. So this is something, as Mike was saying, we can use it for trying to have communication with owners, but it also is a direct feed into your probability, which affects your price. So I like dynamic pricing, not AI, but computer vision, which looks at how humans shop, which is looking at these images. There's another valuable tool here in terms of a lot of advances in language and understanding. Like if someone says this property is disgusting, it has rats in it, no one's going to book it. And that might be reflected numerically in the review, but it's also something that could be understood from a language model or a sentiment model that can then better improve your pricing as well. So there is a few really good use cases that we have and are using right now of AI in pricing. Okay, there's a question there. I'm going to read it really quick. My house sleeps 18. I have the price set high compared to the average bedroom house in my area. I can reduce my base price and increase the cost for each guest. Your thoughts? Okay, my first thought is you should not need a really high base price. The reason you need that is because your comps don't have anything to do with your property. No one is looking at those other comps and thinking, I'm going to book this, right? What you need to do, and this is hard, but we need to zoom out and say, hey, the properties that are nearby or that are selected have nothing to do with my property. No one's considering booking them instead of me. And what we need to do is find better competitors to feed into the model so you have better pricing. Go ahead, Mike.
And yeah, we don't have any houses that sleep 18 here in New Orleans. Legal limit is 5 bedrooms, 10 guests. But that makes me think of the Super Bowl that we just had here in New Orleans. And Neal and I and our team had a lot of back and forth, right? It's a really challenging event. There's nothing to compare it to. The last Super Bowl here in New Orleans was 2013. Can't really compare it to other cities, but being able to hone in on this comp sets of 10 to 20 actual competitors for each of our listings really helped us maximize that revenue and push back on owners who had the wrong assumption. Hey, I'm looking on Airbnb and there's 100 listings left that are going for $6,000 a night. Why are we only listed for $1,200 or $1,500 a night? Well, and the short answer to that is because we actually want to get booked and capitalize on the Super Bowl and not be sitting at a $5,000 a night rate as the game starts and the house be empty, right? So I mean, that I think is a really great question to talk about. And I understand Neal maybe not be able to do it, but as a guy who has worked with the big three in the base price model world with 60 plus rentals for the past 9 years now, that makes sense. Like what you're saying. Hey, I have a massive house that sleeps 18, but the average 4-bedroom house in my area has a low price. My guess would be that they don't sleep 18. So then again, your standard base price model is not looking at how many guests you sleep versus how many guests the other property sleeps. It's looking at the trends of the entire market, right? Which is exactly what happened here during the Super Bowl. Our competition using those base price models and just looking at everybody, SEM prices, 10,000% higher than normal. Was just feeding off of each other and just having prices go higher and higher and higher. And then as the lower price stuff gets booked, what's left on the market, right? So that really helped us, again, capitalize on the Super Bowl. I think the price optimization model that we're getting into here is Carrie is really going to help solve that problem. We don't do pricing by guess, just for reference. I'm not a fan of that because, again, if you can sleep 18 and let's say somebody only books for 6 guests, I imagine you're going to get a massively lower rate to rent your 4-bedroom to 6 guests than that 18. So definitely think that is a problem that the price optimization model is here to solve.
All right. So that was my thoughts on AI. And thank you for that question, Carrie. Hopefully we addressed it there. Next is a bit of what I think of the future of pricing. If you guys use pricing tools now, some of you might use someone like a revenue manager that does this. And it's something that I was a revenue manager for a long time in the airlines doing this, and I work a lot still doing it now. And what I think is possible for us in the industry is not even to be as good as airlines or hotels, but to be much better because of the stuff that we're talking about here. It's like we have really good use cases for AI and optimization. And generally what revenue managers do now is, they'll get the output from a pricing model, and then they'll have to look at it and then they'll just change it, right? So they're just dealing with the outputs. And what we've done in Quibble and we try and do for, as a process is understand why the price is wrong and then see if we can change the inputs. And then all the prices that might be wrong in the future get corrected. So I think there is maturation of our industry. And I think if you guys maybe might not be revenue managers now, maybe you have hired someone to do this for you, or if you're thinking about hiring someone, this is how they should be thinking, spending their time, which is perfecting the model and the inputs that go to get the output of your price so that the next time it keeps fixing itself. Now,
I have a quick question, Neal.
Yeah.
With Quibble, now, does it absorb analytics and just is there anything that Quibble does regarding the pricing model to improve, to continuously improve, improve over time? I'm not too sure if that's something that you're going to cover, but does it remember stats and metrics in order to increase the visibility in the pricing strategy?
Yes. So there's a demand input, right? And the demand input is, okay, in revenue management, we have a forecasting function and an optimization function. The forecast is demand. It's how many people do we think are going to see this property and want to book it? And then the optimization says, okay, with that, what should the price be? And the function that you can continue improving is demand. In Mike's market, some of his properties keep, getting more bookings. Some of them might get a little less. The seasonality might change. And as we keep moving into the future, we're looking back and seeing how those trends are changing. And then that is, feeding into the future price. There's another slide I'm going to show you here about some work we did with Mike. And Mike, if you have a comment, I can stop here.
Go on. Please proceed.
Yeah. Okay. I'll bring it full circle, Frank, to one of the ways that we created some improvements inside the modeling with Mike. This is about improving the model, and it may address a bit of what you're saying and asking about as well. But when you use a forecasting model, you're making predictions about the demand that you just asked about, right? Or, our final position in occupancy or our final position in revenue. And since we're making those predictions, we can find at certain points in time and say, hey, when we were, say, 30 days out, 30 days before the end of the month, what was our prediction? And, we were predicting a certain amount of revenue or a certain amount of occupancy. And then we can compare that to what really happened. And that data, which is the difference between what we thought was going to happen and what did happen, is a feedback, Frank, into the model that says, hey, when we're forecasting portfolio level demand for New Orleans for Mike, at 30 days out, we were under forecasting by 5%. And I might say, okay, well, next month we should try and correct for that. and increase our expectations a bit, right? So we can use error to improve. I'll go, okay, now we'll talk about some results. Mike's going to take the stage here. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I know this started, going back to if we can pop back the one slide. We started talking about that, Neal, as we were trying to set some revenue goals with our clients and track them in Quibble, again, another awesome feature. And so this is a report that I keep an eye closely on. Like the first day of the month, I'll save the email from Quibble that's like, hey, this is what we have on the books now. This is what's forecasted to have on the books at the end of the month. And then sometimes, if we'll go in and dig into specific properties that might be underperforming or overperforming in occupancy, and we want to knock the price up and things like that. But as a property manager, this helps us set expectations for our clients, but also helps us, forecast revenue for our budget and things like that too. But going back to Frank, your question about does it improve over time? Obviously, I can't speak to the technical side of things, but Neal and I and Trip on my team, who kind of runs Book NOLA on the ground, we've been talking about two different things, right? So August is normally a really, really slow month in New Orleans. We don't have a beach. It's usually our slowest month of the year. This past August was pretty bad as far as August go. Because of our weekly meetings with Neal, he does revenue management for us at Book NOLA in addition to just the Quibble revenue management software. He and his team act as the revenue managers for Book NOLA. And so in our weekly meetings, in June, July, we're able to see that August was pacing differently than it was last year. And we dug into things like, that's weird. It should be a little bit better because last year Labor Day weekend started in September. So now it's starting in August. So we should see some additional revenues in August this year. And doing this digging led us to see that September was pacing just tremendously slower than it has in previous years. Over the past couple of years in New Orleans, I've noticed that our Septembers have started to slow down. That Labor Day weekend used to be the kickoff of things picking back up over after a super hot and humid summer here. But September has steadily just declined in revenue expectations and reality. So this year, again, we just had probably the slowest September we've ever had, not at Book NOLA, but for our entire market. And having someone like Neal on our team has just made managing that and communicating about it to our clients that much easier, right? I just had a conversation with a client. We manage 5 units for them. He is like a forensic accountant, and he's like, we did this much in September last year. We barely doing anything this year. What's going on? And kind of being able to talk about some of the macroeconomic factors and global and national events and politics and things like that to talk about why we're kind of seeing this pullback in travel is always extremely helpful with owner relations. But again, working with Neal, utilizing Quibble and the price optimization model, even in these slow months, even in these historically slow months, being able to be confident in the fact that we're still at or near the top of the market for all of our listings is huge. It's one thing for a client to say, hey, we didn't make anything this month. What the heck is going on? What are you guys doing? Do we need to start looking at other property management companies? And being able to come back to them with actual data, with actual knowledge and information and data to show them, well, hey, look, it's not just us. It's not just your property. It's the market, right? And on the flip side is kind of the second part of what we've been working through with Neal. October has always been big. We used to have Voodoo Music Festival, Halloween weekend, that went away, but October's always been really, really strong here. Last year we had Taylor Swift, and like one of the, I think the second to last show on her tour. So October 2024 looks crazy. So we had been talking about that. Hey, I don't think we're gonna match what we did last year in October. And at the same time, we had noticed, just like August and September, our booking pacing was far behind what it was last year. So we started eliminating some price escalators and looking at pricing discounts for some of the units. And at one point, it was like everyone just decided to start traveling and booking their October stays in New Orleans. And we just got a flurry of bookings. Immediately, we got with Neal and we kind of eliminated those discounts and things like that. And the bookings continued to come through. All right. So by ourselves, maybe with the base price model, we probably wouldn't have caught that. There probably wouldn't have been a way to, one, keep track of how the overall market was pacing, and two, be able to very quickly and often proactively notice these changes in the market to capitalize. So October is killing it as always, but again, our nervousness was calmed by the data, the facts, having the knowledge, having everything in hands, right? And at the same time, November is usually pretty strong, but this year we saw it get extremely hot, like we have not seen it before. And Quibble and Neal, again, shout out to you guys. We're seeing like average daily rates of $150, $200 plus over the most we've ever seen for some of these properties that have been with us since 2018, 2019. So again, going 200 plus ADR over what the most they've ever gotten for some of these weekend days in November. Again, because we're able to proactively, look at these market shifts and take advantage of that. So making sure that we and our clients are maximizing the revenue that we can capture for these units.
Yeah. So Hostfully, Quibble, Book NOLA here, obviously able to drive some pretty positive results. Let me run you through we started with Mike and Book NOLA, which is really the premier management company down in New Orleans. Back in summer 2024, this is a curve that shows backwards the RevPAR buildup. And towards the end of the year, this goes to the end of the year. And, from a little bit after we started to see the RevPAR kind of open up across what was happening the previous year. And that was a great result. And, often you think, okay, maybe you can come and make a change, but is it possible to maintain continued RevPAR growth? And with Mike, and, he has a good portfolio, he's got, good properties, so it makes it easier. Quality of property makes our job so much better because it's easier to get booked, and their team's actively managing the reviews, right? If something happens, I don't like, it's not booking, like I gotta go like, oh my gosh, why isn't this happening? Whatever. And, Mike has a team that handles that in the sense of, if something happens, they clean it up, because if not, how bad a bad review can be. One can freeze the bookings and we just see a flat line. And so, great team that he has handling that stuff so that we can keep focused on pricing and not focusing on, bad images or bad reviews, or a rating came in that we got to try and think about, do we got to tank the price here? So we've been able to maintain, continued RevPAR growth even into this year. Even as, Mike said, August and September were slow, even with us, trying to react as much as we can. All right, I'm going to talk about an initiative that we were able to work through with Mike and his team. So these probability-based models that we're talking about here, one of the outputs is an expected rent, or how much the property is going to be forecasted to make, which is a really interesting number, right? So what we were doing is, first we were setting these up. One of the outputs would be the expected rent, and Mike's like, hey, can you show me what they are? So we started printing them out and say, okay, here's what we're forecasting. And he said, for this property, I think it can do a little better. And I was like, all right, let me rerun a few things, right? And so we got the price to come up, the expected revenue to come up. And it's like, yeah, that's a little bit more in the range that I'm targeting. Okay. And this one might be a little lower. So it's okay, let's adjust the comp set a little bit here. We might move this down into a different comps where they're a little bit cheaper. And through this process, it was like, okay, this takes a little bit of time. And what we did was basically build Mike's process into the application from the front end, where you can just say, hey, run the model, but my owner's targeting 50K, and we want to adjust the expected value somewhere around there. And through that work, we've been able to target revenue. Now, I'm not guaranteeing Mike that he can get it. I'm just saying we can create a pricing structure that if that property can achieve it. So great to have partnerships in software building, which I'm sure is true everywhere. And then the last thing here.
And Neal, just real quick, but with the comp set selection, so that's manual, or is there like an automatic?
It's a model. So we have, like, if you imagine that's your property, we have data on all the properties around it, right? And then we have a model that says, okay, if someone's looking at my property, what are the most similar properties they might be looking at? And that goes into distance. So the further away you get, the less likely you are my competitor, right? Because you're getting far away. And then, if it's a bedroom match, like if someone needs a 3-bedroom, Mike's taking his family, he needs a 3-bedroom, he's not looking for a 1-bedroom. So that's not a competitor, right? And that's easy enough for a model to say, hey, the further away you get. So it's just a model that scores all of your competitors and then says, hey, these are my top 10. So let's use those.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the last thing here is, Mike's portfolio is in New Orleans. There's a lot of short-term rentals down there, and they're better off beyond his portfolio. So he wants to reach out to them and give them an idea. If they bring their property onto his portfolio, what can we expect, right? What is a revenue expectation that was reasonable to give to that client or that potential owner? And so as we say, okay, well, Mike's first was like, hey, let's target this expected value, right? Which is a forecast. Well, what we can also do is just say, hey, give us an address and we'll just run the pricing model. And we'll say, okay, if we were to price this thing right now and using our technology, what would the print off of expected value be? And that's a pretty good forecast of how much revenue that property will generate. And so now we are able to basically take an address or an Airbnb listing and generate some very reasonable forecasting. This is done differently from different tools, but the way we're doing it is by, leveraging the pricing model and just running it and saying, okay, here are the best competitors. Here's what we think you can make. And, these are forecasts. The 100% thing you can guarantee about a forecast is it's going to be wrong. It just needs to be as close as possible, right? You want to be as less wrong as possible. So it's a very good prediction of what the property could do given the market conditions of today.
Yes. So shout out seriously to Quibble and Hostfully. I don't think about these things a lot, but I got to thank Hostfully and Quibble. Neal, you just mentioned all of these features that we kind of work together on to see you guys launch in Quibble, man, and continue to make that an even better product. And Hostfully, been with you guys since 2018. And every step of the way, you both companies have been partners, taking the feedback, from the property managers, growing the product, creating the product that their clients actually want to use. So got to give both of you guys, both companies, props for sure. It's been an absolute pleasure. And again, stuff like this, the Property Scout, as a property manager, this is my favorite tool for business development. There are a lot of softwares out there that do these. I have never had one that's so easy to work with in Quibble. And my favorite part is the range, right? As Neal said, the one guarantee you have from a forecast is that it's going to be wrong. But being able to show our clients like, hey, this is the range. because that's the number one question we get when we're talking to a potential client, someone who's looking at doing short-term rentals or someone who's looking at making the switch to book NOLA to work with a better property management company. What can we make? What can we expect to make? And my least favorite question is, how much per night will we charge, right? Who knows? But that's exactly why we work with the price optimization model, right? And going through them with that conversation is a lot easier when you have a range like this and say, hey, you know, if you invest another $2,000 in your design and your furnishing and your curb appeals, and, you know, we do really awesome pictures and get some drone shots, and we do the other things like Neal talked about, like we're proactive and we make sure we're getting those 5-star reviews, we're going to be at the top end of that range. You know, if you kind of, you know, fight us on keeping the hedges being trimmed and, you know, don't want to pay for pest control or something like that, yeah, we might not make that range. But that is just such a great tool to have that conversation and be able to help homeowners really understand how we can work together with them to really maximize their revenue, for sure.
Yeah. And then I know, Mike, you're super hands-on with the revenue optimization and just being on top of it all. But there are property managers out there that just rely on the tool to speak truth. And most of the time, the pricing that they do come up with, the rates that they do come up with per night or the minimum length of stay, sometimes they're not right. And I feel like a lot of education has to be given to the property manager to recognize when those are not correct, because who better knows the competition than the person that's in that market? So right. It kind of, and I know, Neal, you mentioned earlier that you do kind of have like this revenue management service that you provide to Mike. Is that something that you get with Quibble? Do you do consulting? Like how can your clients benefit from that added value?
Yeah, it's optional. So we have clients that just use our software and they like to do it themselves, which I totally get. I like to, you know, you want to be the driver, you want to be the pilot. And then we have clients that we do it for them. And basically we are their pilot, you know, and we'll manage the application for them, do the setup. And yeah, so it's up to them. And you know, the preference of how they like to have management. For us, normally we're really involved at least in the setup part, just to make sure, as you said, Frank, like all these little things are set right and nothing weird's going to happen. You know, like there's just some work up front there, but the option is up to them, and we can, you know, if they want to start with consulting or if they want to just use software.
Awesome. Yeah, and Carrie actually just asked a question. Carrie's new to Hostfully as well. She signed up like 3 months ago, okay. So it's really cool. So, Carrie, appreciate your loyalty and your business, and I'm glad that you're taking up Quibble on their free trial. It asked me for my property management software, and then you answered it, Mike. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, look. Come on. Come on, guys.
I was going to be stuck, and Mike's got the answer.
Mike's been with Hostfully longer than I've been.
Yeah.
Since it was Orby Rental, guys.
Orby Rental.
Way back.
Throwback, yes.